Nimrod.
Thank you, Lincoln and Yvonne. Still with Honorable John Mbadi, Wamuchomba and Senator Okiya Omtata. Honorable John Mbadi, you have been in Parliament since the first Parliament after inception of the current Katiba. How did we get here? Where did the rain started beating us?
How did we get here is the same language we are using today is what brought us here. When in 2013, the government decided to get into very serious, ambitious and heavy projects which this country could not afford. We cheered on and we said that based on that we'll be able to grow our economy, and in a very short while we'll be able to be self-reliant. Many of us made noise. I remember almost becoming a lone voice against the Eurobond in 2013-2014. You can go back to records of Parliament, you'll see when the issue of Eurobond was floated, we objected to it, but no one listened. Now we are here again and we are being told that just tighten your belts. Within a very short time, we will come out of this. The reality is that this is not going to happen anytime soon. Why? Look at the time Kenya Kwanza regime came into office. June 2022, records of June 2022 indicate that we had 8 trillion as our public debt stock. Today, as we speak, and the data of April, because what Yvonne has highlighted is actually the data as at March. As at April, we are 10.54 trillion shillings. That is the debt stock. Now, if you look at that figure and look at our debt repayment, now, first ask yourself, these 2 years, we have moved from 8 trillion to 10.54. And I'm factoring in foreign exchange effects or the weakening of the shilling, which today, and using the rate as at April, was about 131. So it is not the 160, 160.8 as at February of this year or January. So this clearly is additional debts taken. In the last financial year alone, we are taking about 920 billion as budget deficit. So we got here because of our ambition. But let me put it this way, Ayub. In Kenya, the problem we have is we are not projecting revenue. What is happening is that we project expenditure. We decide on where we want to put our money. Once you do that, then you ask how much can we raise from the external market through borrowing. Then you ask yourself how much can we raise locally through borrowing. The remaining balance, you put it as projected ordinary revenue. Because IMF has conditionalities, and IMF actually is also a player in this game. In fact, IMF is impoverishing Kenyans. I sometimes ask those who voted for Kenya Kwanza, including my friend here, Wamuchomba, and with love, I ask, did you know you were voting for IMF puppet, the puppet of IMF for Kenya Kwanza? Probably you did not know, but listen to this. The government is telling us today, Nimrod and Ayub, that we are going to grow our revenue, ordinary revenue, tax collection, from the current 2 trillion 452 billion to a projected sum of 2 trillion 913.2 billion.
Okay.
That is an increase of 461 billion shillings. How would you grow that, which is 19% growth, in an economy that you project to grow at 5.5%?
Thank you.
These are the kind of assumptions that we make which put us into problems.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Omtata, ulizungumzia swala la makadirio ya bajeti ambayo inasukwa kwa sasa hivi, na kwamba ukasema kwamba kuna shutuma ambazo umetoa kwamba kuna uwezekano wa kuwepo kwa shilingi bilioni 100 ambazo zimetengwa kwa ubadhirifu ama shughuli za ufisadi. Umezungumzia kutengwa kwa shilingi bilioni 40 ambazo zimewekwa katika mfumo wa kulipa madeni ambayo haijawekwa bayana kwako wewe. Pili, umezungumzia other expenses ambazo ni shilingi bilioni 60. Tunaomba ufafanue.
Jambo la kwanza,
ni vile ndugu wangu ameelezea pale akisema kwamba serikali haijatueleza waziwazi ni vipi ama ni mapato yetu ni yapi, kwa sababu hata ile ule mtandao ambao niliwaambia watu waangalie, ukienda pale kuna vitabu 5 vya bajeti na zote zinaangazia matumizi ya pesa. Ile mapato ya serikali haijaonyeshwa pale, imefichwa. Ndio tusijue tunachanga shilingi ngapi ama tunatarajia kuchanga shilingi ngapi kulingana na mikakati na mpangilio ya serikali. So kwangu ningependa tu kuambia kwamba ukiangalia kwenye bajeti kuna ile imeitwa other expenses.
Okay.
Ukiangalia kwenye tuchukue mfano hii ofisi ya rais wameipatia shilingi bilioni 3,294,170,000 na shilingi 772 kwa mwaka, lakini juu yake tena wameongeza wamesema kwa matumizi mengine, na hii bilioni 3 wameonyesha pili itatumika, matumizi yote imeingizwa pale. Labda wamesema kuna matumizi mengine ambayo haijatajwa, wameweka bilioni 1.4, bilioni 1.4. So najiuliza hii ni nini ambayo wameweka, na hiyo ni 43% ya ile bajeti. Ukienda kwa ofisi ya Deputy President wamefanya vile vile, wamempea bilioni 1.5 ya shilingi za Kenya, lakini wameenda tena chini wamemuongezea bilioni 1 ambayo ni 65% ya bajeti yake kama matumizi ambayo hayaeleweki. Na mimi nasema hizi pesa zote wanaweka hapa ni za wizi. Hakuna namna nyingine unaweza kuzieleza. Ndio ukipitia kwa bajeti yote ukipiga total zinakuja shilingi bilioni 52 kwa project kadhaa tofauti. Na hizo pesa ni pesa ambazo zimewekwa hapo kwa wizi. Ukienda upande wa kulipa madeni wamefanya vile vile. Okay. Na nimeweza kuona bilioni 40 ambazo zimefichwa pale, ambazo zinarudia malipo imefanywa tena inarudiwa pale. Na wanaweza kufanya kwa sababu ukiangalia ile bajeti ile vitabu 5 ni zaidi ya ukurasa 4,500. So kuipitia hata mimi imenichukua karibu mwezi mzima kuipitia, kuisoma, niweze kuelewa nini inaendelea, na bado naichambua kuweza kuelewa kweli wizi umefikia kiasi gani. So ukiona tena hii mapato hii madeni wanasema hii madeni ya kukopa yenye wamekopa kwenye soko la hapa nyumbani.
Okay.
Unauliza hao watu ni nani aruhusu kukopa hizi pesa? Bunge iliingilia wapi? Ndugu wangu baadhi hapa ameonyesha kwamba pesa wanakopa karibu kila siku wanakopa pesa. Aliwapa idhini ni nani? Ni lini walileta proposal kwa bunge wakaidhinisha endeni mkope hizo pesa?
All right. As you talk about that, Honorable Wamuchomba, coming to you then, because under the PFM Act, you are mentioned so many times, you are empowered. He mentions issues regarding the budget making process, the loopholes and the budgeted corruption as pointed out by the control of budget. And you then part of the problem. Are you not supposed to be the stopgap measure? And what are you doing to do that, to champion for the common Mwananchi?
First of all, I want to request you to allow me to affirm what my colleague senator has said. Today in Parliament, I'm on record that I asked whether we have any document tabled to declare the level of revenue that we are sitting down to budget, because as somebody who understands the budgeting process takes care of revenue versus expenditure. Why are we dwelling so much on expenditure and no disclosures are being made on revenue? I asked that question today in Parliament in the afternoon, and I'm on record. Concerned that there are some non-disclosures that are happening around the revenue area. When you scrutinize the budget proposal and budget making, there are so many discrepancies you can see on figures. I just landed on one page. Like he said, there are many pages. You may not be able to consume every other page with the time allowed. Remembering what happened last year, we were only given 3 days 3 days to go through the document and pass it. And most of us, because of course we have other assignment, it may not be possible, especially for those who are not very conversant with matters budget and matters financial discussions. So I flagged off vote number 1082, State Department of Medical Services. And I realized that the baseline estimate that was given for 2023-2024 was 66 billion, 394,280 and some monies on top. The estimates given for 2024-2025, which is now this year, is 60 billion. So there is a difference of 6 billion. That is a figure that is actually contradicting with the line item budget, which is actually now indicated at 45 billion. So what's happening with those figures? Where are they not matching up? Where is the difference figure? Who is supposed to account for that difference? So that is what we are calling corruption budgeting.
And you are supposed to be the guardrail, is it? I mean, we were talking about money that it's corruption, that money is going to...
Yeah, so that is
public money.
Exactly.
But again, you are privileged as the representative of the people of Githongori to not only point that out, but also voice and then see what action can be taken.
Definitely. That is why I was asking that question in Parliament, so that we can now be allowed to look at the revenues that have been tabled against the budgets, items like this one, so that we know. By the way, how do you budget for money which you have no clear revenue figure? How do you budget blindly without knowing what is it that you have on the table? It's like asking all your children, 10 children, come to the dining table. We are now going to eat. But you don't even know whether the amount of ugali that you're going to share to these 10 children is going to be enough or not enough. So we are doing things blindly. And that is why some of us have been echoing our concern and flagging off some of these issues. So the budget process in the National Assembly is actually supposed to be as heavy as making a bill into a law. When you're making a law in Parliament, it takes you almost 3 years. Now, when we assume that this is a 2 weeks, 3 weeks affair and engage in a hurry so that we can finalize, we make a lot of goofs. And those are the goofs that later on you hear people going to court saying it was unprocedural, it was irregular. So even as we go through the standing orders and follow the standing orders and do what you're supposed to do as the tradition of Parliament, I think it's time for us to review our standing order and give members of Parliament time to assimilate and understand the budget proposal, the revenues they are in, and advise accordingly.
Okay.
And that is why we are having a lot of confusion and issues raised. Okay. But I was looking forward to use this platform to actually highlight issues that my voter really doesn't understand, because what you're talking here is more elite. And our voters down there in the villages are not understanding what you're talking about when you talk about billions. Because billion to them is actually a figure that they're used to hear, but they don't know what it means. I was looking forward for an opportunity in this show to actually break down in the Wanjiko's language what this finance proposal, if passed the way it is, will do to their lives. On another platform, I tried to break down the impact of this finance bill to tea farmers. I would have loved to get an opportunity to break this to that very boda guy I saw there on the television, talking about how he expected the 1 shilling reduction on fuel levy affect his business, which he has not seen the results. I hope we will get an opportunity, because to me, as a representative of the people, my work is to actually understand this bill and break it down to them, and then go to them and ask them for their permission, whether I have their permission to vote this bill in or to reject it.
Thank you.
Nafasi hiyo itatokea, tutakupa. Mheshimiwa Mbadi, kupitia Public Finance Management Act, muna kibali, muna nguvu kama bunge ama kama wabunge to push back expenses haswa katika executive zinapoletwa. Kitu gani ambacho kinawazuia wakati mmelindwa na sheria kuweza kuzuia baadhi ya gharama ambazo tunaziona zinajitokeza na zingine hazijielezi kama anavyozungumza Okiya?
And especially in the context of the debt ceiling.
You see, it is bad manners in our politics. The issue, what brings us to where we are is this talk of tyranny of numbers. Remember the last general election, Kenya Kwanza did not get majority in the National Assembly. Which house is the one that is mandated at the moment to deal with budget estimates, projections, the debt level approvals, etc. But because of our bad manners in politics, majority was forced to move from Azimio to Kenya Kwanza. And so today, much as I would put out good ideas, much as I would persuade and talk to Kenyans, and including my fellow members of parliament, that we are about to make a big mistake, how many members of parliament from Kenya Kwanza side would listen? Probably you'll have Gathoni Wamuchomba and a few others. Now look, you are taxing us more, but where is that money going? The budget is being reduced by about 85 billion. But where is this reduction? I will mention to you where the reductions are. 1, education, 45 billion. 2, health, 7 billion. 3, agriculture, rural and urban development, 9 billion. 4, environment, water and natural resources line, 9 billion. If you add those 4 budget lines, you have 77 out of 85.
And the women enterprise fund.
Yeah, the key and most critical areas which affect the law in the society are the ones that are reduced. And you will find members voting.
Hold on,
yes.
buddy. Okay, because of the timing aspect here, you talked about the majority aspect in the current parliament.
Exactly.
The Jubilee Party, when it came to power, had a near absolute majority. Still had the majority and had railroaded some of these proposals through parliament. When the PFM Act gives MPs, notwithstanding your political party belongings, the party that sponsors you to parliament, why is the lacking conscience? Aren't you part of the problem, especially in simply rejecting what the executive says? For example, the upscaling of the debt ceiling in the last parliament where you were, and there was a formal agreement between the then President Uhuru Kenyatta and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
By the way, let me put it clear. Debt ceiling to me is nothing. What is important is how we budget. You know, you can have a debt ceiling of even 30 trillion. But if you budget properly, you will never go to that 30 trillion. But I want to also put it this way. Remember, the tyranny of numbers started in 2013. That's the first time we had this language of tyranny of numbers. Much as you would also condemn and castigate the last parliament, but I will tell you the first parliament in the history of Kenya to reject a budget and return it to the treasury was the last parliament, the 12th parliament. And so, much as we would say that it also committed some crimes, but I would tell you that Parliament was a bit more objective compared to these other parliaments. There was robust debate. There are things we rejected. Remember the finance bill of 2021. There were a lot of changes. There were bad things which were put in that bill, which we removed as a parliament. For the first time, the finance committee was responsive to Kenyans' cries and concerns. Today, we don't have that. And I will tell you collectively as a house, we stand condemned. But go back to records and you'll find some of us have been speaking a lot of sense, which if were listened to, then we would not be where we are today.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Mbadi. Mtazamaji, bado tunaendelea na mazungumzo yetu. Hivi sasa tunaelekea katika government studio. Tuungane na Sam Gituku na Mashirima Kapombe.